You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
If you've reached a level in your business where you feel like your growth is stalled or plateaued, then today in this episode, we're talking about why you can't outwork your thought habits. Yes, we're going to talk about some of the things that are going on inside that could be causing the effect on the outside. So stay tuned. This is coming right up. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and over the last 25 years in marketing and business, I've helped many brands to launch, scale, and grow, with some of them becoming multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm here to inspire you to get out of your own way and create a profitable, fulfilling business while living the lifestyle you really desire, without all the hustle. So I bring you She's the Business podcast, a unique blend of strategies, tactics, mindset, health, and spirituality, literally everything you need to be the successful leader of your dream business. Made by women, for women, this is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. Joining me on the podcast today to talk to us all about the thought habits that we have that are driving the results that we're seeing in the 3D world, in our environment, is the beautiful Amy Kemp. Now, Amy is a certified habit finder coach, and she helps leaders, entrepreneurs, business professionals to understand how deeply their thought habits are impacting every part of their work and lives. We're going into the subconscious layer of your brain and identifying what are those thought habits that you have that you don't even realize are there, that are running your life or your business. So interesting. Amy has an absolute wealth of knowledge around this to share, and we go into some really interesting questions, and she shares some great stories. So I know you're absolutely going to love this. She's also written a book called I See You, and it's a guide for women who want to make more, have more, and be more without more work. So love that. We are definitely on the same page in terms of, why we're here on this planet is to live, to be, to have a great life. And, your business should be something that is supporting that as opposed to detracting from it. So if you also believe in that philosophy and want to be living more and, having a successful business at the same time, then you're going to absolutely love what Amy has to share with us today, and you will hopefully learn something about yourself too. So without further ado, let me play this interview for you. Hello, so I'm here now with Amy Kemp. Amy, welcome to She's the Business podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Funny we're on. I was just before I got on was talking to my friend about a potential trip to New Zealand. So we have it sort of in the idea bucket right now.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Such an awesome. Yeah. I grew up there and my parents live there. So I like to kind of think of it as my second home.
Yeah.
And we go at least once a year, sometimes twice, because it's just so good. But yes, definitely you should go. It is a very special place. Special in my heart as well, but
I love that. Yes, it's definitely on my list. So
that's amazing. Now, Amy is a habit finder coach. But Amy, can you tell us a bit about what you do, who you help, and what is a habit finder coach?
I would love to. First, I'll tell you, I've been doing this work for 8 years, and I started the business completely by accident. I mean, I don't know if you have heard of people doing that, but I had
there's a business.
I had no strategic plan. I didn't think I was starting a business, but it turns out that this work I do now, I use an assessment tool. It's called the Habit Finder. And what it does, it takes a picture of your subconscious habits of thinking. So below the surface, about 2/3 of our thoughts are happening below the surface every day in our subconscious mind. And the tool measures risk that your brain will follow a certain pathway. And most of the pathways are there because we're hardwired to survive. So you learned, for example, breathing is a subconscious thought, right? We don't want to have to think about breathing, but we know to survive, we need to breathe on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But in our lives, these subconscious habits of thinking are operating, and they're giving us outcomes in our ability to connect with people, to complete tasks, to embrace structure, to find joy in what we're doing and what we're creating. And they're impacting us every minute of every day, and we're unaware of them. So this tool allows you to kind of get under the surface and see where you have risk and where they could be potentially creating resistance to growth and creation.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have lots of questions to ask, but who do you most help? Like everybody has thoughts. So,
Totally.
yeah, what is the kind of the channel that you've gone
Mm,
down in terms of who you're helping and why? Like what does
yeah.
this mean?
I'm going to be really specific in my answer because I had a conversation today with a woman who so encapsulates my people.
Mhm.
So this woman has done some things. I mean, she has built a successful career. She went through a difficult divorce, um, made her way through that to a second marriage that's very happy, raised two kids brilliantly. She is active in our community, and she has sort of a reputation for being successful.
Yeah.
Our conversation, the below the surface, was more interesting and more vulnerable. This is just a potential client. What I found under the surface is that she has some subconscious habits of thinking that she developed through surviving being a single parent. And those include perfectionism, overworking, being driven, where like you can't even stop. The thought of stopping producing is terrifying, right? Just the thought
Yeah.
of getting off of that hamster wheel. And she knows that. She was able to articulate it, but like also knows that she's starting to see some red flags in her body. Like her body is telling her, you can't keep operating like this at this pace. Here's the thing: when you employ a survival habit of thinking, when there's a habit of thinking that helped you survive, when you employ it past the point of needing it, it becomes detrimental and damaging. So for her, this work hard, provide for my kids, never think about my own needs, build the thing, succeed, succeed, succeed. It really served her well in those years of survival. But now she doesn't need to do that, and she's still working that way.
Right.
And basically I said to her, you're going to get sick. Like you can't be living in fight or flight and then have all of the cortisol pumping through your body and not have, outcomes that aren't great.
Yeah.
And that's the impact of these underneath habits of thinking, is that she's not like consciously thinking about that. She could talk about it, but it's affecting her in so many ways. So those are my people. Like she's a good example,
Love it.
that was fresh in my mind today.
I love that. No, a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? So it's
Totally.
so cool to be
Yeah.
specific. Now, the first question I have, which came to me as you were talking, is how similar are your conscious thoughts and your subconscious thoughts? Like, or do you say sub or unconscious? I hear people say different ways.
Either.
So
Yeah.
the thoughts beneath the surface, like you're one person, you've lived through the same experiences. And we've got all these subconscious thoughts that are happening, and most of our thoughts throughout the day, they're just sort of driving all of the automatic behaviors and things that we're doing. But do you see, like, how linked are they to thoughts that you are having in your conscious mind, do you think?
That's an interesting question. I think they're very different. Just in my experience of doing this for 8 years, I know that to change a subconscious thought, you have to bring it up to the conscious thought. And you absolutely must be able to have language for it to like identify this is what's happening, so that you can choose a different thought and start to create a new pathway. And I think that's why I believe they're so different, because let me give you an example of that.
Yeah.
that just happened to me. So it's a good one. There's a habit of thinking where your brain, most entrepreneurs have it, but it's called fantastical. It means my brain as an entrepreneur can vividly see what it is that I want to create.
Yeah.
So much so that if while I was visualizing, let's say, achieving a goal in my business or earning an amount of money or, creating an offering and then seeing it come to fruition, when I'm just imagining, nothing has happened, right? If you hooked my body up to monitors, it would respond as if the thing was happening right in front. Like it would tell you it was happening. That's how vivid it is in my
Yeah.
my ability to see that. The risk of that is that you can quickly go to fantasy or catastrophe. And you can kind of swing back and forth between those two like a pendulum. So I just published my first book. Well, when you publish a book, there's like a pre-order phase where you can't see how many books are sold. But you can see on Amazon or different platforms, right, that books are being sold because the rankings change. So you can see like, oh, someone must be buying it because the ranking is going higher and higher. Okay. So it's about like a 3-month period where I'm aware that people are pre-ordering, but I don't have the number until the day it's officially published.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
my brain got attached to a number. And
Mhm.
I don't even know how I came up with the number. I don't even I have never published a book. I don't even
Yeah.
it
You just
was just
pulled a
a
number out of
number.
somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah.
This is how many have sold. Like that was the
Yeah.
narrative. And I attached my feeling of success to that number without even knowing it at the subconscious level.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
The day comes, I get to find out how many books have sold.
Yeah.
The person from the publishing company gets on and she's walking me through the dashboard and the number comes up and it's about a third of the number I had been imagining.
Mhm.
Okay, first of all, the imagining was a fantasy and I built this whole world that
Yeah.
didn't exist, right? I didn't even know I was really doing it consciously, but it was happening and I was living in it. Okay.
Mhm.
I crashed, like emotionally just crashed because it wasn't what I expected. I felt
Mm.
like all of these thoughts started swirling like, this is a failure. I shouldn't have done this. Why did I even, right? So
Yep.
here's the best part of the story. And I go immediately to catastrophe, right? Like I'm
Yep.
a failure as an author. Okay. Like I'm
Of course. Yeah.
legitimately like going to lose my home and be abandoned by my family. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Like I don't believe any of that, but my brain will go there really fast subconsciously.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I walk out to the kitchen. My 18-year-old son is out there and he says, "Hey mom, did you get to find out like about the number of books you've sold?" Because we'd been
Mm.
talking about it as a
Yeah.
family. And I said, "I did. I just found out today." And he said, "Well, how was it?" And I said, "Well, I got to tell you, I'm super disappointed. Like, I just feel so sad. Like, I feel like it's not a lot compared to what I thought it would be."
Yeah.
And so he's standing there and he kind of looks at me and he cocks his head. And I'll never forget, he like turns his head and he said, "Well, isn't it like the second day?" And like instantly, it brought the subconscious thought to my conscious mind. I was like, oh my gosh, I just did it. I just did what I work with people on all
Yeah.
the time, right? But his words, like, and humor, and just his addressing, like, oh, well, it just started. So maybe you have to actually work at something to build it and you have to take millimeter steps, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It like shook me out of it so fast. So while my brain will still do that on its own, I can catch it faster because I have language and I can name it and I can say, oh, there it was, fantasy, catastrophe. That's all
Mm.
just thoughts. It's all
Mhm.
just thoughts, right? That are
Yeah.
happening. So yeah, that's
So
a good example.
that's really cool. And when you talk about thought habits,
Mhm.
is it the habit of like recognizing I tend to go into fantasy or I go to catastrophe, or are they actual habits as in you've got more specific habits that a person would have where they, have something on repeat, I guess, in their brain? Like, can you
Mm.
explain? Yeah, I'll open that whole
Oh.
conversation up. What is a thought habit?
Mhm. Wait, clarify the last part of the question. Say that part again.
Well, so the way I initially was thinking of it when you're saying it was like, how you have things on repeat. So you might
Yeah.
just have in your brain, it might be something that you're saying to yourself about yourself, which may or may
Yeah.
not be true, but you might be thinking it. You might be thinking, it's usually pretty negative. I was like, I can
Yeah.
think of all the awful things that I say to myself
Sure.
on a regular basis, right?
Mhm.
And then those might be a habit because it's something that repeats and
Yeah.
occurs often. Or is it the habit of like, so I in listening to your story, my son is someone who he lives in the catastrophe. Like anything,
Mm.
he's like, he's there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, okay, stop. Just because that could happen, that doesn't mean it's going to. What's the actual, the possibility? Let's look at all of the likely things to happen, which are good, and I
Mhm.
sort of like, he really needs a lot of help and coaching to get out of that catastrophe place. And he
Totally.
will go there really quickly. So I'm like, so I guess my question was, yeah, when you're talking about thought habits, is it the tendency to go into fantasy or catastrophe, or is it more specifically like, wow, you have a thought habit around your health or,
Mm.
like the way you
I would
speak
say
or specific things?
it's more the first, but it affects your health or it affects your relationship, right?
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
um, okay, here's another example.
Mm-hmm.
One of the habits of thinking that is common with my clients, it's the risk is being indifferent. It means that it feels so irritating to you to have to affirm people for just doing their job or just doing what they should be doing. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of high achievers get promoted and then they're leading a lot of people who aren't high achievers, right?
Yeah.
And they don't recognize that they are intimidating, that everyone doesn't think like them. So they have this habit of thinking that's saying, I don't need praise. I don't need to be affirmed. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going to do it anyhow, right?
Yeah.
And that habit that causes them to be so irritated with people who need that. But to build a team, people need to
Mm-hmm.
feel seen. They need to feel affirmed. And so I work a lot with clients on it's like having a savings account you've never cashed in on. You have all of these words that you could use that would make your team function so much more effectively. But this habit of thinking is telling you that that's annoying and you shouldn't have to do that. And
Ah,
it's
right.
inhibiting you from being able to build a really cohesive, strong team. And it's not, you're not getting the most out of people, right?
Yeah.
So to
Mm.
break it, like to change it, what we do a lot, one of my clients calls it the today I need to be nice reminder, where she just puts a reminder in her calendar where, like, on Mondays, she
Mm.
says something nice to Joe. And then on Tuesdays, she says something nice to Tina, or whatever. But she will go out of her way to find something to affirm. The experience has transformed her team because the people now are not now they will do anything for her. They feel so connected to her and so
Mm.
affirmed and so loyal to her. And so this very simple, but she didn't know that was happening. Like she didn't realize how much they needed it and that this
Yeah.
habit was keeping her from giving them that. And
Mm.
so she has to make a conscious choice to like act differently to get a different outcome.
Yeah. Do you think these thought habits are something that we are kind of built with from birth?
Mm,
Or like you mentioned with your story before about the lady who had been a single mom and she'd built this whole sort of survival habit of how she
yeah.
thought about work and life. Do you think that she had that sort of tendency already before that and then it really sort of solidified through that circumstance? Or did she create it at that time?
Mm.
You know,
Maybe and both, maybe like a both and yes.
mhm.
And so I do think people are hardwired, like you mentioned your son, to go quickly in a certain direction.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like their brain will have a propensity to move to the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Particularly if you have anxiety and you are wired that way, right? I also will say that's not a bad thing to be able to go to catastrophe, because sometimes you can see what the worst case is, come back to reality and take steps to prevent it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not, it's just the fact of, or are you just letting yourself live in the catastrophe? That's the
Yeah.
danger zone, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think I lost the question. What was the
Well, it
question?
was like, are we kind of built that
Oh,
way?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, like
Hardwired,
a
like
high
you were
achiever.
born that
Are you
way.
born a high achiever? Are you always going to
Mhm.
be that kind of person? Or is it
Mhm.
partly nurtured or brought about through circumstance?
Mm.
Um,
I think more the second. I do think I just took we just got back yesterday from the Galapagos Islands,
oh, wow.
where we took a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fascinating about the Galapagos Islands is that the animals are not afraid of you because they have not been hunted, or
Mm.
they have no fear. It's like the evolution has worked that out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and as I was watching it all happen, you're like standing a foot away from a sea lion, and then like a penguin swims by you. And then, I mean, it was just crazy amazing, right? Well, what I've thought about when I was observing all of this incredible ecosystem around me was like a lot of these habits of thinking are because we're trying to survive. And we have learned either
Mm.
generationally or through our life experiences that this is dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. So in my book, I talk a lot about how you can't stifle your intuition in one area and then have access to it in another. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you an example of that. Like, I have a client who was raised by a parent who is an addict. So
Mm.
from a very young age, she parented her younger siblings. She paid the bills. She made sure there were Christmas presents. She did all of the adult things. Her intuition, her subconscious was saying, you shouldn't have to do that. You're not an adult. But she overrode that to survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she did a brilliant job of it. I mean, she survived, and I don't really know how she did. Like, it's pretty incredible. So fast
Mm.
forward 20 years later, she's building a business. When I met her, she's working 70 hours a week, 80
Ouch.
hours a week. She's exhausted. She's legitimately like questioning even becoming an entrepreneur, because this life is not what she wanted. That's not why she became an entrepreneur, so
Yeah.
she could work that much, right?
Mm.
But what I figured out is like she had stifled the thing, the tiny whisper inside of her that says, like, that's enough for today.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm
Mm.
tired.
She's
Or
overriding it. And that was her pattern,
she
right?
totally, that's
Yeah.
how she survived. And so now she didn't
Mm.
have access to that tiny, like, knowing, that
Mm.
intuition inside of her. And
Mm-hmm.
so what we worked on was just like, how do we access that? How do you learn to trust that? And you know what
Yeah.
else that voice tells you is like, I'm hungry, or I'm full.
Yeah.
But when
Mm.
we override that and we're doing weird things to our bodies and whatever for long enough, then all the decisions are made with our conscious mind.
Mm.
And by the end of the day, we're exhausted and we don't make great choices when we're tired, right? So
Yeah.
I'm interchanging intuition and subconscious, but I think you can see where I'm
Yeah.
going there. It's like
Yeah.
we have overridden that, but then it becomes problematic where, like, if she kept going the way she was going,
Yes.
I mean, she was going to die. Like, your body can't keep living like that.
Yeah.
So it was
Wow.
really
Can't sustain
powerful.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really
How do
interesting.
you, like you mentioned before that you've got an assessment tool.
Mhm.
I'm curious because the examples you've given are so wide reaching. And I'm
Mm,
guessing each person has something specific, but you wouldn't even realize that you're doing it, right? Because it is, like you're
totally.
saying, it's a subconscious habit. It is for you, just that is just how things are. So,
Mhm.
you're client who is feeling frustrated about her team, and that she's like, why do I need to praise just that they're doing their job? It's just what's expected. Like, totally get that. I've been there before too. But, you know, when you're like,
Yeah.
you actually wouldn't even be thinking or looking there. So how do you uncover these things and actually find what is it? What is that subconscious habit that you have?
I
Like,
know. I'm
I'm
so
just,
grateful. I'm
my
so
brain is
grateful for
exploding.
this tool, because
Mhm.
the habit finder assessment, so you can actually take it for free
Mhm.
on my website. So you can just go to amykemp.com and take it. You get your results right away, and it's very comprehensive. So it's not like a 2-paragraph result. It's a
Yeah.
44-page PDF that you can really dive into.
Wow.
What I I I received this like assessment as a client first about 15 years ago. I was leading a huge sales team of about 1,000 people.
Wow.
I will never forget when I talked to the guy. I didn't even want to take it. My friend told me I should. I was like so annoyed. You know, it was just like, I was like, whatever. I trusted my friend. I took it. And then, okay, when I read it and then talked to the coach that I worked with,
Mm.
I was almost angry for days because I knew it to be true, but I had never thought it before.
Mm.
And it was like this huge blind spot where I couldn't see it, but it was impacting everything about my leadership, about my business. And
Wow.
my business through this work basically quadrupled in size. And the only thing I changed was me.
Yeah.
I,
Amazing.
I mean, I did change external things, obviously, as I changed,
Of
but
course.
like really what I changed were
Yeah.
some very deep seated. One of mine was I had a really hard time letting people struggle.
Mhm.
I felt very responsible for their experience. I
Mm.
could not hold space for someone without picking up all of their energy and their experience and taking it with me.
Yeah.
And it was so exhausting me that I was near the point of like burnout. I didn't want to lead any more people. I was just like, I'm done with all of you. Right.
Yeah.
And it is,
Mhm.
I think my natural genius is a bit that I'm an empath. So I naturally like
Yeah.
feel people. I don't just talk to them.
Same. Mm.
Um, so I had to learn how to protect myself so that I could be in space with people without absorbing them into me.
Yes. Yeah.
But I didn't know that's what I was doing. I didn't have any language for that until I saw the results of the assessment and realized like, oh, this is a problem, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
incredible. It's so
Mhm.
interesting how sometimes you get a mirror put up and it might be
Oh,
hard to even
mm,
acknowledge. Like you said, you knew it was true, but you didn't
yeah,
want to accept it. It's like sometimes the truth is really hard to accept, especially when, you know, it's just sort of thrown up there and you think, oh my goodness,
yeah.
that is so true. But
Yeah. I
ouch.
have a hunch right now I'm working on. I don't know if it's true, but it's a hunch
Yeah.
that we are created to live in community with other people because we can't really see ourselves.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Um, this is fun. I'm like just starting to chew on this
Yeah.
thought a little bit, but all the time, and many times I think almost people will hire me just because I can tell them what their natural genius is. I can see them. I really see them. And
Mm-hmm.
then I can tell them, and it resonates as true. But
Mm.
I don't know very many people who can articulate that about themselves.
Yeah.
And here's part of the reason. This is actually in chapter 2 of my book. It's all about natural genius, but the thing that our natural genius feels so easy to us, we don't even know we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't recognize that not everyone can do that. And it feels so easy. And so we're just sort of like, well, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Like I always
Mhm.
ask people, what's the thing you do that feels easy to you, but astonishes everyone else?
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's the thing right there. But like, okay, another example, I have a client who she is, we'll just say like she's a VP level.
Mm-hmm.
So she sits at like the table of leaders. And of course, she's one of the only women. Um, her leader is very charismatic, and he's very much like always with the microphone and whatever. She did not categorize herself as a leader or as a strong leader because that's not what she is. Like, she's not the microphone in hand. She can, but it's not her natural genius, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what we recognize and what I saw after just getting to know her is that what she was constantly doing was building bridges on the team. She was constantly reading the room and seeing like that person is not happy about that decision, and then would go say like, well, what's going on? Why are you responding that way? And she was constantly like
Mm-hmm.
creating these pathways that were making the team function really effectively. But she didn't know she was doing that, and she didn't see it as having great value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
She's just
And I
like,
think,
that's just her instincts, right? So yeah.
yeah, she was like, well,
Mm.
that's just what I do. And she didn't characterize that as leadership. I
Mm.
was like, well, I have a few thoughts about that. I mean, I feel like that form of leadership is lacking, and we need more cultivation of it,
Yeah.
particularly in our world right now. And a lot of those leaders are women, um,
Yes.
who
Yeah.
are
And it's just
doing
a
the,
different style, right? Like, it's not
yeah,
necessarily what they have seen or experienced before, but it's
yeah.
still, yeah, absolutely leadership. Yeah.
Plus, I was like, well, you're a VP. Like, how do you think you got there? Like, if you're not a leader, but it's
The
funny
title
because
says
she
it
just
all.
really like didn't characterize herself that way. Like, she didn't see herself until I
Mm.
told her. Like, I kept saying that to her and then saying, do more of that. Like, and recognize its value, and don't you dare get underpaid, because what you're bringing is exceptionally valuable. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. No, I was
Mhm.
nodding along while you're speaking because, one of the things I very similarly help my clients to do, they are always really talented. They've got so many things, and that they just can't see what I call the expert zone. And it's like, it's the same thing.
Mm.
It's like, it's right under your nose. It's what you do and you
Oh,
think is just normal because you do it and it's been easy for you. And, it's exactly as you were saying, like, it is
yeah.
the most
Oh,
amazing thing. And then they're like, once they
oh,
realize it, it's like, you feel it, right? You actually
you
just
do.
feel the truth of like, oh my goodness, that is it. And now everything
Mhm.
seems so easy.
Yeah. The other thing, women almost always undercharge for it.
Yes. Yeah.
We do not
Mhm.
understand the value of it because it feels so easy, and we feel like we shouldn't get paid a lot for something that feels so easy to us.
Yes.
So one of mine is I'm really great at facilitating conversations in small groups. And I
Mhm.
can trace it back to like very young age. I had a club in our neighborhood, and everyone had to put a piece of chewed gum on the tree to get in. And I would facilitate conversations with these friends of mine about how we could make our neighborhood a better place, which I think is just delightful. But whatever. I remember talking about that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so from a very young age, I was not talking, I was asking questions. And then I was, well, what do
Mm.
you think about that? And what do you think about that? And do you think that's true? And, I was like facilitating.
Facilitating.
And
Mm.
if I trace back through my whole professional career, that's how I developed people. I facilitated conversations in small groups. I didn't know it was really valuable. I just did it. I do it if I'm out to eat with you. I do it like all the time, right? And so what I learned, and what I have learned in these last 8 years of this particular stretch era of my business, is that that's exceptionally rare, and it's very valuable, and
Mm.
people will pay for it, and they should, because it's rare, and there is value in all rarity, therefore it's valuable, right?
Yes.
uh
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, like you say, I mean, you can see straight away how you are just thinking that's just normal.
I had
and
no
other
idea.
people, yeah, you have no idea.
Yeah.
Do we all have thought habits that you think we should be discovering and finding out about?
Mm.
Do people have like, oh, are there some people who are like, you're fine, don't worry about it, you know,
Oh.
your thought habits are all good? Like,
Mhm.
what do you think about that? Because I know I'm being
Yeah.
very absolute in that. Is it all
No,
no, but
there are people who have great clarity of thought. So when I look at the assessment, like I will go through it with prospective clients. A lot of times people will think, oh, if it's very clear, they don't need to work with a coach. What I think when I see that is like, oh, I cannot wait, because what can happen is that we can create without resistance.
Yeah.
So we are creators, right? Like as human beings, we were created to create and to like let creation happen through us. What happens in our brains is that these habits of thinking create resistance to that process, to the millimeter steps of creation.
Mm-hmm.
And they get in our way more than anything in that process. More than any external circumstance, what's
Yeah.
slowing you down is it's this underneath the surface stuff that
Mm-hmm.
it's like you
Yeah.
know you're
The invisible
capable.
thing holding you
Mhm.
back, and you're like,
Yeah, I'll kind
why
of
am I
describe
trying to
it
move
too.
forward and I've got a foot on the brake at the same time?
Yes. Yes. Or it's like, I know I'm a Porsche. Like, I know I'm a super fast sports car. I
Yeah.
have this exquisite gifting and capacity, but there's gunk in my fuel. And so when I know my capacity, but when I hit the gas, I don't go.
Yeah.
But I definitely see that people who have more clarity at times have a harder time with the areas where they do have risk, because it's like they're so used to having clarity. So then this is like they can't even tolerate it. I mean, they're just so uncomfortable with it. And it really holds them up even more sometimes than people who have a lot of noise happening in their head and a lot of resistance. So, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that can happen is like, this is a fluid assessment. It's not a personality test. It's not a strengths. It's not who you are in any way. Our thoughts are always changing. But I've
Mm.
seen a lot of clients where we work together, they get a promotion or their business grows to the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, all of these habits of thinking show up that weren't there before.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like
Mm-hmm.
you're playing in the minor leagues and then you go up to the major leagues, and all of a sudden these habits of like, how you hold the bat or whatever,
Yeah.
you can't do that there. Like it's going to be a problem at that higher level.
Yes.
So a
Yeah.
lot of times, like, then they'll come back and say like, whoa, like this is very different. And so we dig in again and see what's showing up that maybe
Yeah.
didn't need to show up in the other role or at the size of their business when it was smaller.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think there's
Hmm.
always layers, right? You kind of go through some layers and then,
Yeah.
oh, look, here is something new, or here it is again, just at a different level.
Yeah,
I've definitely had that
absolutely.
happen before. I'm like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
thought that we'd worked on this and then it shows up
Oh,
again. But
yeah. I think that's common too, like in changing thought habits. Sometimes
mhm.
people will say, and I've even said to coaches I've worked with, I'm tired of talking about this. You must be tired of hearing me talk about it. Like it's the same thing. But if you imagine, I think of it like a kind of like a mountain where
Mm,
at the beginning you run into it over and over because you're just taking a little tiny circle, but you start to go down the mountain, you run into it fewer and fewer times and it takes longer. Like it might, for example,
yes.
the story I told you about my book, that was the first time that had happened in like a year. Well, it used to happen every day. Right? But
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, there it is. Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can move forward past it, right? But it
Mm,
just shows up less and less as that groove doesn't get traveled as much in your brain. It's still
yeah.
there, but you can
Mhm.
quickly catch it or make a pivot faster. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Totally get
mhm,
it. No, I
yeah.
love that. And I think, you said before about how you think we're designed to live in communities because it's hard to see yourself, and other
Mm,
people are almost like the mirror, right, that you need. And I think it's so interesting because I lived half my life, or probably more than half, not even thinking any of these things or knowing anything about it. And then once you start to realize, someone said to me one day, your children are the biggest mirror you could ever have. And I started going,
Oh,
oh my goodness, because, I'd see
that
things.
is a true statement.
The shock that happens, and then all the little things that they're like, why are they doing that? That's annoying. And then I'm like, okay, they're a mirror. You turn it and look at yourself and you're like, oh my
Oh
goodness,
man, I
now I
am
can
telling you.
see where that comes from. And
Mhm.
it changes everything, right? Because you become so much more compassionate, so
Mhm.
much more, I don't know what the word is, but I think, like, I can't even explain how much you grow as a person once you start
Less
to.
judgmental too, right?
Totally. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And more like, how
Never
can I help?
judging any parent. Like, right, I'm never judging you ever, 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 especially after my third child.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never, ever, ever, yeah.
Yeah.
We had our first two children, and they were, I would say, fairly easy. And I remember saying to my husband, I mean, people have locks on their cabinets. Are they not parenting? Right. And then we had our third son. We had locks on everything. Like, we had locks on locks on locks. And like, we were, I mean, oh, and I thought, why did I say that out loud? But I will never, I just think you're doing the best you can. Like,
Yeah.
all of the parents, all
Yeah.
of the people. The other thing that reveals all of the subconscious habits of thinking that are holding you back is moving into entrepreneurship.
Yes.
I mean, I've seen it take people out, like especially moving from a traditional job to an entrepreneurial space.
Mm.
It is not for the faint of heart. You get to experience, like I describe it, like a beach ball was being held underwater and it just whoosh comes up to the surface. And you get to really encounter a lot of the noise that has been there, but you didn't have to encounter it in your other
Yeah.
role.
Yeah, it's so true. I think, you really learn the way of the world, and, we're almost nurtured to come up and be an employee and work in that space. And it just
Totally.
sort of happens organically. I totally agree. Like, because I didn't start well, actually, no, I started my first business while I was still working. But, it had been 20 years before I decided I'm going to do this full time, and I quit the corporate job. So I'd been in that environment working for 20 years. And there's been times since then I've gone, I just feel like a child, like in an entrepreneurial space. Like, it's one of my inner critics thoughts, but this is why, right? Because it's throwing up all of these things. I didn't know
Mm.
anything about myself. And it's almost like I feel so new, and I know that I'm not new, as in I've been around and I've got all this
Yeah.
experience and expertise, and what I'm doing, it's stuff I've done my whole corporate career. So that
Mhm.
it's not new, but then it's this feeling of like, wow, I feel so new, as in this is a whole
Yes.
new parts of me I didn't even realize were there. There's just the whole experience of it. And I don't know if you can I'm trying to think of something specific, because I know I'm just
Well,
talking
it's
very,
like
very
you were
terms.
an expert. So it's like novice to
Mm,
expert, right? You became an expert in this space over here. But
yeah,
then you move to this new space and you're a total novice. You're just starting out, right? And then you do
yeah,
bring with you some of the things. Like you still have your skills and your experiences, but you've got to now learn again to become an expert. And that's really jarring, especially if your habits
mm,
of thinking around your self-worth are attached to your performance, to what
yes,
you do, to your identity and as a professional person. It's
yeah.
very jarring.
It's kind of like you've moved to a whole nother planet, and now you've got to figure out how life works on this planet. And so you were
Very
great on
different.
the planet that you were on, and everything was fine, knew how it worked, and I got up to the top of my profession. And then I've gone to a
Yeah.
new planet, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. So everything I thought I knew, like, I did marketing and business. So it's not like it's that unusual to start a business. I'm like, I'm going to be good. I've got all this knowledge and I understand it.
Totally.
And well, it isn't, you're on a different planet, and the rules that applied in the other planet don't apply on this planet. It's sort of like, that's the best way
100%.
to explain it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never learn more about yourself.
Mm-mm.
Are there any signs that you would say signal to someone, hey, you probably need to figure out what's actually going on? Like, are there signs
Mhm.
that you're someone
Mhm.
that needs a habit identification, like a bit of
Mhm.
a reset?
Yeah.
What apart from your intuition, it's like something's just not right, or why is this
Yeah.
higher than it should be? Is there anything that you would?
Sometimes it's like my business has gotten to this threshold and then
Mhm.
it's just plateaued. I'm
Yeah.
not able to. Sometimes it's I can't work any more hours, but I
Mm.
want a better outcome. I want more income or impact or influence. But as far as hours go, like I'm tapped out. I can't give
Yeah.
anymore,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes it's that move from like a producer to a leader. There's like a jump there where you experience a lot of discomfort.
Mhm.
Um, it's also interesting that a lot of times people will hire me to help them with their business. And then we discover that what's really the problem isn't their business. There are other things happening in their life. It can
Mhm.
be a difficult relationship, it can be problems with kids and boundaries there. There are things that are happening there also. But I
Mm.
think what the unifying characteristic is that I know what I want and I can't get there. I can't get it. I don't
Yeah.
know what I'm missing. Am I missing a skill? Am I missing, and I've tried everything and all of my old mechanisms that moved me up to this point aren't working anymore.
Mm.
Because this work, what it feels like when you're going through it is your brain is screaming danger, particularly for entrepreneurs when I say, okay, now we're going to work less and you're going to earn more.
Yeah.
They're just like, what? And so it's almost like
Yeah.
you're riding your bike and you're pedaling and pedaling and
Mm.
pedaling, and you can't pedal any faster. But if you just shift the gear and you shift the gear down,
Mhm.
and you do some digging, right? You'll travel further with less energy exertion.
Yeah.
You'll be able to enjoy it more. But when you first do that, everything in you is going to say, I can't slow down and my feet are going so fast, I'll fall over. Like everything in you is going to scream danger to
Yeah.
that option. It's contrary to how you have wired yourself to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that. That's so,
Mhm.
so important. Because, you said they hire you to work on the business, but it's often something that's not in the business. And it's like, well, when you're
Mm.
running a business, there's a real merging. Like, it's not like you
Oh,
go, oh, okay, I'm going home now from the job, and I go home and I've got, I used to have two separate lives. It was like work life and home life, and I didn't like to blend the two very much. But when you have your own business, no, your life is not just work. And I'm very, very clear on, I started business so that I would have more life and less work. But it sort of blends because you're still and the business, you are so much the blood and the lifeblood and the heart of the business, that
yeah.
it's still with you even when, so it's in your life, and the things that are happening, like you say, it's like, well, actually there's stuff happening that's outside of the business that is
Mhm.
having an impact on it,
Yeah.
because the separation just isn't there. That's,
Yeah. We have
there's a rule of
relate
the new planet, right?
Yeah, we
We're
have
on
a
we're
we
on
have
the
a
new planet.
relationship with it. Like it's a
Mm,
relationship with our business just like we do with people. And so
mm,
boundaries are needed for that relationship to be healthy, but the boundaries aren't rigid. And when you're an
yeah,
entrepreneur, it's not so simple like you said of just I'm going home and I don't have to care about any of this.
yeah,
I legitimately don't care if whatever happens, but when it is your business, it there is a different level of connection to it. So,
mm,
yeah,
yeah,
businesses are hungry though. I mean, they will eat up as much of you as you let them.
yes,
Um,
mm,
we talk a lot about setting goals with boundaries, like
mm-hmm,
meaning Mine is, as an example, I want to work like a teacher. So I want to work Monday through Friday from like 8 to 3, and then weekends off. And I want summers to be lighter, and I want breaks when my kids have breaks, right?
Yeah.
So I want to work like a teacher, and I want to get paid like a CEO. So if all the goal was to get paid like a CEO, then there's no boundaries. Like then I
Yeah.
can just do whatever, whenever, right? There's
Mm.
absolutely no, it's just a yes to everything. So I've
Yeah.
got to have the boundary
Mm.
included to protect myself from myself, because I
Yeah.
love to work. I love
Yeah.
it. And so it'll just take
Yeah.
over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
But
you said,
it's,
it's like the yes, like you're like, well, there's so many things you could say yes to, but
yeah,
if it's going to then be in conflict with you working like a teacher, then that's where you make that decision, right? Well,
yeah.
is this worthwhile doing or not?
Totally.
Because
I had I tell the story in the book. There was a
mm,
woman I talked to. She was my ideal client. And
mm,
we got done with the conversation, and she said, "I don't even need to talk to my husband. Like this is a yes." And then she said, I said, "Well, let's schedule your first call." And she said, "Great. I only can talk after 6 p.m., like during the week." And I was like, "Oh gosh,
oh,
I'm gonna need to think about this." So I just gave myself the night, but I had to call her back and just say, I can't, like, if
yeah,
I do that, then it's just, I will resent my business, because
yeah,
that's how you know you're missing a boundary in your life in any way, is the feeling of resentment. I
yeah,
don't,
yeah,
I said, yeah, it's a dirty yes,
mm,
right? I
mhm,
don't want to do it, but I'm saying yes. But then when I have that call, I just feel
yeah,
yuck about it.
mm,
Yeah, but I had to
yeah,
walk away from, that's a lot of money. That's a great person that I really cared
yeah,
about. And I had to just like say it's not going to work. That's
yeah.
where the rubber meets the road on the boundaries
Yeah,
with
no,
the
but it's
goals.
so important. I'm like, I resonate with
Mhm.
that so much. I did the same thing the first couple of years of my coaching business. I was, at the time, because I had a brand new newborn. And so I was up at all sorts of crazy hours. So I kind of then allowed that to happen with my clients. I'd be like, yeah, I can do, a 6 a.m. call with someone in the UK, or I was doing evening
Mhm.
calls. And then a couple of years in, I went, no, I'm changing this because I actually just want to I need my time, and,
Mhm.
I need to just chill in the evenings. And so I set the boundary, and it just meant, well, okay, so I'm, not going to be the ideal coach for anyone in the UK, because our, you
Time
know,
zones.
time zones just do not work unless one of us is really over compromising. And if they want to, that's fine, that's up to them. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely setting that boundary for myself. And
Mhm.
there's been that, which then you think, well, some people go, well, there's all that opportunity, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but
Mhm.
at what expense?
Yeah. Yeah. And the bigger question is, what do you want to create? Like, I want to
Yeah,
create a thriving business, but I also want to create the fullness of my life. And
yes,
I don't, as a woman, I don't have the
mm,
luxury of just being absent from like what's happening in my house,
exactly,
right?
yeah,
I have 3 kids, and I've got a
yeah,
husband, and there are a lot of things that I do that I want to do. So I'm
mm,
creating there as well, not only in my business. I'm creating all of it, and
yeah.
then the experience of it too.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think that's so true. And to me, it's like it's the life first. Like that's where I started. What do I
Yes.
want my life to look like? And then what does the business that supports that life look like? So how
It's a
will I
vehicle.
build it or structure
Mhm.
it so that it gives
Yeah.
me that life? And that's 100% the way that I approach things too. I
Mm.
love
It's
that.
super cool.
Yeah, Amy, this has been such a cool
Mhm.
conversation. I know that you've got so much. Your book, I can see that behind
Yeah,
you. It's called, is it I See You? Is that
it
your book?
is.
Yeah.
Yes, it's called I See You, and it is a guide for women to make more, have more, and be more without more work. So the
Mm.
core message of the book is that you can't outwork your thought habits.
Okay, love it.
Because if you could, you already would have.
Yeah,
Because I'm sure that the
so
people
true.
listening are not lacking in work ethic. It's
Yeah,
not working harder that is
yeah.
going to get you what you want more at a
Mm.
certain point. Now, I will also do like the caveat where if you're just starting out, there is kind of some work.
Yeah,
You got to do some work,
absolutely.
right? But this is for the person who has gotten to a point and then it's like, I can't get past this point and I can't figure
Mm,
out why, right?
mm. Yeah, yeah,
That's who the book is for.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think there is that, you always have to do something, but
Mm,
you've already spoken about it. It's like you don't have to keep going at that crazy pace or with those hours,
mhm. Yeah.
because it's just going to end up with a downfall, isn't it? You're
Yeah.
going to
It's
drive yourself to the ground.
like an airplane where it
Mhm.
takes a lot of fuel to get it off the ground. But if you keep burning that amount of fuel, you're going to crash and burn,
Yeah,
right? You will burn out the engines
yeah.
once you get to cruising
Mm,
altitude. It's a
yes,
really good like visual of that.
very good analogy. I love that.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll link up the book in the show notes, and also you mentioned your assessment tool that's on your
Yeah.
website, which is so exciting. I'm definitely going to
Mhm.
go hop over there and have a little play with that myself. That will be in the show notes too. So please make use of those. Amy has just shared so much. If you've resonated, you're obviously with us still after all this time. You must be loving our conversation. So I'm sure that you're going to love her book, and to learn more from her. Where do you hang out, Amy? Where can people find you online?
I love Instagram. So you can
Mm-hmm.
find me at Amy Kemp Inc. on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
and also LinkedIn, just under Amy Kemp. You can find me there as well. So,
Yeah.
and then my website, of course, is amykemp.com. So pretty simple, just my name.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. And
Mhm.
easy to spell as well. So that is wonderful. Thank you so much, Amy. This has been
Thank
an
you.
absolute pleasure. We definitely have to stay connected and hopefully chat again soon.
I love that. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Are you struggling to find quality clients these days? Well, in this world of instant gratification and abundance of AI produced content, it may be feeling harder than ever to attract the sort of clients who really value your expertise, are ready to show up, ready to commit and invest in getting the results that they actually want. But it's not just about guessing, and it's not about just creating more content hoping that something sticks. There is some specific things that you can do and need to have in your business in order to attract those sort of clients. And I'm sharing them with you in my training, my free training called The Magnetic Formula. So go and grab yourself a seat for this free class and let me show you what are these 5 key things you need to have in your business so that you end up with a stream of committed, high quality clients who are ready to invest, who help you have a very thriving, flourishing business that earns you over 6 figures a year, and you do it all in very easy part-time hours. Head over to jessicaosborne.com/TMF or drop below into the show notes, click on the link and grab yourself a seat for this free training while it still exists. I'll see you there.